Hi guys. Sorry about that. First thing I do is sneeze on stream. That's awesome. Nothing but pro streaming here. Nothing but pro. Gesundheit, thank you. It's like, oh no, where's the button? Where's the button? Oh my. So how are you doing today? Oops, that's not where I want that. That's where I want that. And, oops, wrong spot. Copy that. And then go to Twitter. Maniac, too many streams going on Sunday evening. Yeah, there's a lot of streams going on. A lot of stuff going on today. But that's okay. That's alright. That's alright. It's okay. It's alright. It doesn't, yeah, it's good. It's all good. So today I'm gonna be doing a, I don't know. I've got a little project that I want to do on Blender, but I need some pictures for it, so I was gonna make some. Because I figured, why not? Why not? Because it's rainy, and if you can't tell, I got a blankie threw over my shoulders because it's really, really rainy here, and everything is achy, so, extra little bit of warm on the shoulders won't hurt none. So I'm gonna mute, and we'll get this started.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Alex Foster, www.alexfoster.me.uk. The Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. Edited by D. Lang Purvis. This reading is based on the book The Canterbury Tales and Other Poems. The original text contains poems by Chaucer and a lot of notes and explanations by the editor. To view these, please visit the Gutenberg eText link on the LibriVox catalogue page of the Canterbury Tales. The Franklin's Tale. Prologue. In faith, Squire, thou hast thee well acquit, and gentilly I praise well thy wit, quoth the Franklin. Considering thy youth, so feelingly thou speakest, sir, I allow thee, as to thy doom, there is none that is here of eloquence that shall be thy peer. If that thou live, God give thee good chance, and in virtue send thee continuance, for of thy speaking I have great dainty. I have a son, and by the Trinity, it were me lever than 20 pound worth land, though it right now were fallen in my hand, he were a man of such discretion, and yet that be, fie on possession. But if a man be virtuous withal, I have my son snibbed, and yet shall, for he to virtue listeth not intend, but for to play at dice and to dispend, and lose all that he hath, is his usage, and he had lever talk with a page than to commune with any gentle wight, there he might learn gentilesse aricht. Straw for your gentilesse, quoth our host. What, Franklin, pardie sir, well thou wast, that each of you might tellen be the least, a tale or two, or breake his behest. That know I well, sir, quoth the Franklin. I pray you have me not in disdain, though I to this man speak a word or two. Tell on thy tale without wordes mo. Gladly, sir host, quoth he, I will obey unto your will. Now hearken what I say, I will you not contrary in no wise, as far as that my wittes may suffice. I pray to God that it may please you, then what I tell, that it is good enow. These olde gentle Bretons in their days of diverse adventures made lays, rhymed in their firste Breton tongue, which lays with their instruments they sung, or else reade them for their pleasance, and one of them have I in remembrance, which I shall say with good will as I can. But, sirs, because I am a borrow man, at my beginning first I you beseech, have me excused of my rude speech. I learned never rhetoric, certain. Thing that I must speak, it must be bare and plain. I slept never on the mount of Parnasso, nor learned Marcus Tullius Cicero. Colours know I none without a dread, but such colours as growen in the mead, or else such as men dye with or paint. Colours of rhetoric be to me quaint, my spirit feeleth not of such matter. But if you list, my tale shall ye hear. The Franklin's Tale. In Armoric, that is called Britannia, there was a knight that loved and did his pain to serve a lady in his beste wise, and many a labour, many a great emprise he for his lady wrought, ere she were won, for she was one the fairest under sun, and eke thereto come of so high kindred, that well unnethes dost this knight for dread. Tell her his woe, his pain, and his distress, but at the last she for his worthiness, and namely for his unique obeisance, hath such a pity caught of his penance, that privily she fell of his accord, to take him for her husband and her lord, of such lordship as men have over their wives. And for to lead the more in bliss their lives, of his free will he swore her as a knecht, that never in all his day he day nor nicht should take upon himself no mastery against her will, nor kithe her jealousy, but her obey, and follow her will in all, as any lover to his lady shall. Save that the name of sovereignty, that would he have, for shame for his degree. She thanked him, and with full great humbless she said, "Sir, none of your gentleness ye proffer me to have so large a reign, ne woulde God never betwixt us twain, as in my guilt, were either war or strife. Sir, I will be your humble true wife. Have here my troth, till that my hearte brest. Thus be they both in quiet and in rest." For one thing, sires, safely dare I say, that friends ever each other must obey. If they will longer hold in company, love will not be constrained by mastery. When mastery comes, the god of love anon beateth his wings, and farewell, he is gone. Love is a thing as any spirit free. Women of kind desire liberty, and not to be constrained as a thrall. And so do men, if soothly I say shall. Look who that is most patient in love, he is at his advantage all above. Patience is a high virtue certain, for it vanquisheth, as these clerks sayn, things that rigour never should attain. For every word men may not chide or plain, learn to suffer, or so may I go. Ye shall it learn whether ye will or no. For in this world certain no wight there is, that he not doth or saith sometimes amiss, ire, or sickness, or constellation, wine, woe, or changing of complexion, causeth full oft to do amiss or speaken. On every wrong a man may not be recon. After the time must be temperance, in every wight that can of governance. And therefore hath his worthy wise knight to live in ease, sufferance her behight. And she to him full wisly gan to swear, that never should there be a default in her. Here may men see a humble wife accord. Thus hath she taken her servant and her lord, servant in love and lord in marriage. Then he was both in lordship and servage. Servage? Nay, but in lordship all above, since he had both his lady and his love. His lady certes, and his wife also, the which that law of love accordeth to. And when he was in this prosperity, home with his wife he went to his country, not far from Penmark, where his dwelling was. And there he lived in bliss and in solace. Who coulde tell but he had wedded be the joy, the ease, and the prosperity that is betwixt a husband and his wife. A year and more lasted this blissful life, till that this knight, of whom I spake thus, that of Cerrod was called Arvigarus, shop him to go and dwell a year or twain in Engleland, that was called eke Bretagne, To seek in armour's worship and honour, for all his lust, he set in such labour, and dwelled there 2 years, the book saith thus. Now will I stint of this Arviragus, and speak I will of Dorigen his wife, that loved her husband as her hearte's life. For his absence weepeth she and seeketh, as do those noble wives that them liketh. She mourneth, waketh, waileth, fasteth, plaineth. Desire of his presence her so distraineth, that all this wide world she set at naught. Her friends, which they knew her heavy thought, comfort her in all they ever they may. They preach her, they tell her night and day, that causeless she slays herself, alas. And every comfort possible in this case they do to her, with all their business, and all to make her leave her heaviness. By process, as ye know, every one men may so long graven in a stone, till some figure therein imprinted be. So long have they comforted her, till she received hath, by hope and by reason, the imprinting of their consolation. Through which her greater sorrow gan assuage, she may not always duren in such rage. And eke Arviragus, in all of this care, hath sent his letters home of his welfare, and that he will come hastily again, or else had this sorrow her hearty slain. Her friendes saw her sorrow gin to slake, and prayed on her knees for Godde's sake to come and roamen in their company, away to drave her darker fantasy. And finally she granted that request, for well she saw that it was for the best. Now stood her castle faster by the sea, and often with her friends walked she, her to disport upon the bank on high. There as many a ship and barge sigh, sailing their courses where them list to go. But then was that a parcel of her woe, for to herself full oft, "Alas," said she, "is there no ship of so many as I see will bring her home my lord? Then were my heart all warished of this bitter pain's smart." Another time she would sit and think, and cast her eyen downward from the brink. But when she saw the grisly rockers black, for very fear she would her hearte quack, that on her feet she might not sustain, then would she sit down upon the green, and piteously into the sea behold, and say right thus, with careful sighs cold: "Eternal God, that through thy purveyance leadest this world by certain governance, in idle, as men say, ye nothing make. But Lord, these grisly friendly rockers black, that seem rather a foul confusion of work than any fair creation of such a perfect wise God and stable, why have ye wrought this work unreasonable? For by this work north, south, or east, or west, there is not fostered man, nor bird, nor beast. It doth no good to my wit, but annoyeth. See ye not, Lord, how mankind it destroyeth? 100,000 bodies of mankind have rockies slain. All be they not in mind, which mankind is so fair part of thy work. Thou madest it like to thine own mark. Then seemed it ye had a great charter toward mankind. But how then may it be that ye such meanness make it to destroy? Which meanness do no good, but ever annoy. I wot well clerkes will say as them lest, by arguments, that all is for the best, although I can the causes not y know. But thilke God that made the wind to blow, as keep my lord, this is my conclusion. To clerks leave I all disputation, but would to God that all these rockes black were sunken into hell for his sake. These rocks slay mine hearte for all the fear. Thus would she say with many a piteous tear. Her friends saw that it was no disport to roam by the sea, but discomfort, and shop them for to play somewhere else. They led her by rivers and by wells, and eke in other places delectables. They dancen, and they play at chess and tables. So on a day, right in the morning tide, unto a garden that was there beside, in which they had made their ordinance of victual and of other purveyance, they go and play them all the longe day. And this was on the 6th morrow of May, which May had planted with his soft showers. This garden full of leaves and of flowers, and craft of manne's hand, so curiously arrayed had this garden truly, that never was there a garden of such price, but if it were the very paradise. The odour of flowers and the freshe sight would have maked any hearte light that e'er was born, but if too great sickness or too great sorrow held it in distress. So full it was of beauty and pleasance, and after dinner they began to dance and sing also, save Dorigen alone, who made away her complaint and her moan, for she saw not him on the dance go that was her husband and her love also. But natheless she must a time abide, and with good hope let her sorrow slide. Upon this dance, among other men, danced a squire before Dorigen, that fresher was and jollier of array, as to my doom, than is the month of May. He sang and danced, passing any man that is or was since that the world began. Therewith he was, if man should him descrive, one of the best faring men alive, young, strong, and virtuous, and rich and wise, and well beloved, and holden in great price. And shortly of the sooth I telle shall, unweeting of this Dorigen at all, this lusty squire, servant to Venus, which that he called was Aurelius, had loved her best of any creature, 2 year and more, as was his aventure. But never durst he tell her his grievance, without a cup he drank all his penance. He was despaired, nothing durst he say, save in his songes somewhat would he ray his woe, as in a general complaining he said he loved, and was beloved nothing. Of such a matter made he many lays, songes, complainters, roundels, viriles, how that he durste not his sorrow tell, but languished as doth a fury in hell, and die he must, he said, as did Echo for Narcissus, that durst not tell her woe. In other manner than ye hear me say, he durste not to her his woe betray, save that paraventure sometimes at dances, where younger folk keep their observances, it may well be he looked on her face, in such a wise as man that asketh grace, but nothing wiste she of his intent. Ne'ertheless it happened, ere they thennes went, because that he was her neighbour, and he was a man of worship and honour, and she had knowen him of time yore. They fell in speech, and forth aye more and more unto his purpose drew Aurelius. And when he saw his time, he said her thus: "Madam," quoth he, "by God that this worlde made, so that I wist it might your hearte gladde, I would, that day that your Arviragus went over sea, that I, Aurelius, had gone where I should never come again. For well I wot my service is in vain, my guerdon is but bursting of mine heart. Madam, rue upon my pain as smart, for with a word ye may me slay or save. Here at your feet God would that I were grave. I have now no leisure more to say. Have mercy, sweet, or you will do me day." She gan to look upon Aurelius. "Is this your will?" quoth she, "and say ye thus?" "Ne'er erst," quoth she, "I wiste what ye meant, but now, Aurelius, I know your attent. By thilke God that gave me soul and life, never shall I be an untrue wife. In word nor work, as far as I am wit, I will be this to whom that I am knit. Take this for final answer as of me." But after that in play thus saide she: "Aurelius," quoth she, "by high God above, yet will I grante you to be your love, since I see you so piteously complain. Lookye, what day that endelong Bretagne ye remove all the rockies, stone by stone, that they let ship nor boat to gon. I say, when ye have made this coast so clean of rockies, that there is no stone seen, then will I love you best of any man. Have here my troth, in all that I never can, for well I wot that it shall ne'er betide in such folly out of your hearte glide. What dainty should a man have in his life, for to go to love another manne's wife, that hath her body whenever him liketh?" Aurelius full often sore siketh. "Is there none other grace in you?" quoth he. "No, by that Lord," quoth she, "that maked me." Woe was Aurelius when he that heard, and with a sorrowful heart he thus answered: "Madam," quoth he, "this were an impossible, then must I die of sudden death horrible." And with that word he turned him anon. Then came her other friends many a one, and in the alleys roamed up and down, and nothing wist of this conclusion, but suddenly began to revel new, till that the brighte sun had lost his hue, for the horizon had reft the sun his light. This is as much to say as it was night. And home they go in mirth and solace, save only wretched Aurelius, alas! He to his house is gone with sorrowful heart. He said he may not from his death start. Him seemed that he felt his hearte cold. Up to the heaven his handes gan he hold, and on his knees bare he set him down, and in his raving said his orison. For very woe out of his wit he brayed. He wist not what he spake, but thus he said with piteous heart. His plaint hath he begun unto the gods, and first unto the sun. He said, Apollo, god and governor of every plant, herb, tree, and flower, thou givest, after thy declination, to each of them his time and his season, and thine herberow changeth low and high. Lord Phoebus, cast thy merciable eye on wretched Aurelius, which that am but lorn. Lo, Lord, my lady hath my death y sworn, without a guilt, but thy benignity. Upon my deadly heart have some pity. For well I wot, Lord Phoebus, if you lest, ye may me helpe, save my lady best. Now vouchsafe that I may you devise, how that I may be holp, and in what wise. Your blissful sister Lucina the sheen, that of the sea is chief goddess and queen, though Neptunus have deity in the sea, yet empress above him is she. Ye know well, Lord, that right as her desire is to be quicked and lighted of your fire, for which she followeth you full busily. Right so the sea desireth naturally to follow her, as she that is goddess both in the sea and rivers more and less. Wherefore, Lord Phoebus, this is my request, do this miracle, or do mine hearte breast, that flow next at this opposition, which in the sign shall be of the lion, as praye her so great a flood to bring, that 5 fathom at least it oversprang the highest rock in Armoric Bretagne. And let this flood endure years a twain. Then certes to my lady may I say, holder your hest, the rockies be away. Lord Phoebus, this miracle do for me, pray her she go no faster course than ye. I say this, pray your sister that she go no faster course than ye these yeares too. Then shall she be even at full alway, and spring flood lasteth both night and day. But she vouchesafe in such manere to grant her me my sovereign lady dear. Pray her to sink every rock adown into her own dark region, under the ground where Pluto dwelleth in, or never more shall I my lady win. Thy temple in Delphos will I barefoot seek. Lord Phoebus, see the tears on my cheek, and on my pain have some compassion. And with that word in sorrow he fell down, and long a time he lay forth in a trance. His brother, which that knew of his penance, up caught him, and to bed he hath him brought. Despaired in this torment and this thought, let I this woeful creature lie. Choose he for me where'er he will live or die. Arviragus, with health and great honour, as he that was of chivalry the flower, is come home, and other worthy men. O blissful art thou now, thou Dorigen! Thou hast thy lusty husband in thine arms, the freshe knight, the worthy man of arms, that loveth thee as his own hearte life. Nothing list him to be imaginative. If any wight had spoke while he was out to her of love, he had of that no doubt he not intended to know such matter, but danced, jousted, and made merry cheer, and thus in love and bliss I let them dwell. And of the sick Aurelius will I tell, in languor and in torment furious. 2 year and more lay wretched Aurelius, ere any foot on earth he might have gone, nor comfort in this time had he none, save of his brother, which that was a clerk. He knew of all this woe and all this work, for none other creature certain. Of this matter he durst no word sayn. Under his breast he bare it more secree than e'er did Pamphilus for Galatea. His breast was whole withoute for to seen, but in his heart aye was the arrow keen. And well ye know that of a Sir in surgery is perilous the cure. But men might touch the arrow or come thereby. His brother wept and wailed privily, till at the last him fell in remembrance, that while he was at Orleans in France, as young a clerk as that be liquorous, to readen artes that be curious, seeken in every halk and every herne, particular sciences for to learn, at him remembered that upon a day at Orleans in study a book he say of magic natural, which his fellow, that was that time a bachelor of law, all were he there to learn another craft, had privily upon his desk y laft, which book spake much of operations, touching the 28 mansions that longen to the moon, and such folly as in our days is not worth a fly, for Holy Church's faith in our belief, as suffereth none elision to grief. And when this book was in his remembrance, anon for joy his heart began to dance, and to himself he said privily, my brother shall be waried hastily. For I am sicker that there be sciences by which men make diverses appearances, such as these subtle tregetoures play. For oft at feasties have I well heard say that treasurtors within a halle large have made come in a water and a barge, and in the hall rowen up and down. Sometimes hath seen come a grim lion, and sometimes flowers spring as in a mead, sometimes a vine and grapes white and red, sometimes a castle all of lime and stone, and when it them liked, voided it anon. Thus seemed it to every manne's sight. Now then conclude I thus, if that I might at Orleans some older fellow find, that hath these moone's mansions in mind, or other magic natural above, he should well make my brother have his love. For with an appearance a clerk may make to manne's sight, that all the rockes black of Bretagne were voided, every one, and ships by the brink come and gone, and in such form endure a day or two, then were my brother warished of his woe. Then must she needs holde his behest, or else he shall name her at the least. Why should I longer tale of this? Unto his brother's bed he comen is, and such comfort he gave him for to gon to Orleans, that he upstarts anon, and on his way forthward then is he fair, in hope for to be list of his care. When they were come almost to that city, but if it were 2 furlong or 3, a young clerk roaming by himself they met, which that in Latin thriftily them gret. And after that he said a wondrous thing. "I know," quoth he, "the cause of your coming." And ere they farther any foot he went, he told them all that was in their intent. The Breton clerk asked of fellows in which they hadde known in olde doors, and he answered him that they deade were, for which he wept full often many a tear. Down off his horse Aurelius licht anon, and forth with this magician is begone home to his house, and made him well at ease. Them lacked no victual that might them please. So well arrayed a house as there was one, Aurelius in his life saw never none. He showed him, ere they went for to supper, forests, parks full of wilde deer, and there he saw hartes with their hornes high, the greatest that were ever seen with eye. He saw of them 100 slain with hounds, and some with arrows bleed of bitter wounds. He saw, when voided were the wilde deer, these falconers upon a fair riviere, that with their hawks have the heron slain. Then he saw knights jousting in a plain, and after this he did him such a pleasance, that he him showed his lady on a dance, in which himself danced as him thought. And when this master that this magic wrought saw it was time, he clapped his handes to, and farewell all the revel is y go. And yet removed they never out of the house, while they saw all the sights marvellous. But in his study where his bookes be, they satte still, and no wished but they 3. To him his master called his squire, and said him thus, "May we go to supper? Almost an hour it is, I undertake, since you bade our supper for to make." When that these worthy men wente with me into my study where my bookes be. "Sir," quoth his squire, "when it liketh you, it is all ready, though you will right now." "Go we then sup," quoth he, "as for the best, these amorous folk some time must have rest." At after supper fell they in treaty what summer should this master's guerdon be, to remove all the rockes of Bretagne, and eke from Gironde to the mouth of Seine. He made it strange, and swore, so God him save, less than 1,000 pound he would not have, nor gladly for that sum he would not gon. Aurelius with blissful heart anon answered thus, "Fie on 1,000 pound! This wide world, which that men say is round, I would it give, if I were lord of it. This bargain is full driven, for we be knit. Ye shall be paid truly by my troth, but look, for no negligence or sloth, ye tarry us here no longer than tomorrow." "Nay," quoth the clerk, "have here my faith to borrow. To bed is gone Aurelius when him lest, and well nigh all that night had he his rest. What for his labour and his hope of bliss, his woeful heart of penance had a liss." Upon the morrow, when that it was day, unto Bretagne they took the richt away, Aurelius and this magician beside, and be descended where they would abide. And this was, as the books me remember, the coldy frosty season of December. Phoebus waxed old, and hued like latoun, that in was his hote declination, shone as the burned gold with streames bright, but now in Capricorn adown he light, where as he shone full pale, I dare well sayn, the bitter frostes with the sleet and rain destroyed have the green in every yard. Janus sits by the fire with double beard, and drinketh of his bugle horn the wine. Before him stands the brawn of tusked swine, and Noel crieth every lusty man. Aurelius, in all that ever he can, did to his master cheer and reverence, and prayed him to do his diligence, to bring him out of his paine's smart, or with such a sword he would slit his heart. This subtle clerk such ruth had on this man, that night and day he sped him, that he can to wait a time of his conclusion, that is to say, to make illusion, by such an appearance of jugglery, I know no terms of astrology, that she and every wight should ween and say that of Bretagne the rocks were away, or else they were sunken underground. So at the last he hath the time found to make his japes and his wretchedness of such a superstitious cursedness. His tables toletaines forth he brought, full well corrected, there that lacked north, neither his collect nor his expanse years, neither his routers nor his other gears, as be his centres, and his arguments, and his proportional convenience, for his equations in everything, and by his 8 spheres in his working he knew full well how far Alnath was shove from the heart of that fixed Aries above, that in the 9th sphere considered is, full subtly he calculed all this. When he had found his first dimension, he knew the remnant by proportion. He knew the rising of his moone well, and in whose face and term and every deal, and knew full well the moone's mansion, accordant to his operation. And knew also his other observances, for such illusions and such méchances as heathen folk used in thilke days, which no longer made he delays, but through this magic, for a day or tway, it seemed all the Rockies were away. Aurelius, which yet despaired is where he shall have his love or fare amiss, awaited night and day on this miracle. And when he knew that there was none obstacle that voided were these Rockies every one, down at his master's feet he fell anon, and said, "Aye, woeful, wretched Aurelius, thank you, my lord and lady mine Venus, that me have holpen from my cares cold." And to the temple his way forth hath he told, whereas he knew he should his lady see. And when he saw his time, anon right he with dreadful heart and with full humble cheer saluteth hath his sovereign lady dear. "My rightful lady," quoth this woeful man, "whom I most dread and love as I best can, and loathest were of all this world displeased, were't not that I for you have such disease, that I must die here at your foot anon. Naught would I tell how me is woe begone, but certes either must I die or plain, ye slay me guiltiless for every pain. But of my death, though that ye have no ruth, advise ye, ere that ye break your truth, repente you, for thilke God above, ere ye me slay, because I you love. For madam, well ye wot have what ye have hight, not that I challenge anything of right of you, my sovereign lady, but of grace. But in a garden yond in such a place, ye wot right well what ye behighted me, and in mine hand your troth plighted ye, to love me best. God wot ye said so, albeit that I unworthy am thereto. Madam, I speak it for the honour of you, more than to save my hearte's life right now. I have done so as ye commanded me, and if ye vouchesafe, ye may go see. Do as you list, have your behest in mind, for quick or dead, right there ye shall me find. In you has all to do me live or die, but well I wot the Rockies be away. He took his leave, and she astonished stood. In all her face was not one drop of blood. She never weened to have come in such a trap. "Alas," quoth she, "that ever this should hap, for weened I ne'er by possibility that such a monster or marvail might be. It is against the process of nature." And home she went, a sorrowful creature, for very fear unearthes may she go. She weeped, wailed all a day or two, and swooned, that it ruther was to see. But why it was, to no wight told her she, for out of town was gone Arviragus. But to herself she spake, and said thus with face pale and full sorrowful cheer, in her complaint as ye shall after hear. "Alas," quoth she, "on thee, fortune, I plain, that unware hast me wrapped in my chain, from which to scape what I no succour, save only death, or else dishonour. One of these two behoveth me to choose, but natheless Yet had I liever lose my life than of my body have shame, or know myself a false, or lose my name, and with my doeth I may be quit wis. Hath there not many a noble wife ere this, many a maiden slain herself, alas, rather than with her body do trespass? Yes, certes, lo, these stories bear witness. When 30 tyrants full of cursedness had slain Phidon in Athens at the feast, they commanded his daughters to arrest, and bring her before them in despite, all naked, to fulfil their foul delight. And in their father's blood they made them dance upon the pavement. God give them mischance, for which these woeful maidens full of dread, rather than that they would lose their maidenhead, they privily be start into a well, and drowned themselves, as the bookes tell. They have messeen let inquire and seek of Lacedaemon 50 maidens eke, on which they woulde do their lechery. But there was none of all that company that was not slain, and with a glad intent chose rather for to die than to assent to be oppressed of her maidenhood. Why should I then to dien be in dread? Lo, eke the tyrant Aristoclides, that loved a maiden hight Stymphalides, when that her father slain was on a night, unto Diana's temple went she right, and hent the image in her handes too, from which image she would never go, no wished her handes might it off erase, till she was slain right in the selfe place. Now since that maidens had with such despite to be defouled with man's foul delight, well ought a wife rather herself to slay than be defouled, as it thinketh me. What shall I say of Hasdrubal's wife, that at Carthage bereft herself of life? For when she saw the Romans win the town, she took her children all and skipped her down into the fire, and rather chose to die than any Roman did her villainy. Hath not Lucretia slain herself, alas, at Rome, when that she oppressed was of Tarquin, for her thought it was a shame to live, when she hadde lost her name? The 7 maidens of Milesie also have slain themselves for very dread and woe, rather than folk of Gaul should them oppress. More than 1,000 stories, as I guess, could I now tell as touching this matter. When Abradate was slain, his wife so dear herself slew, and let her blood to glide in Abradate's wounds deep and wide, and said, "My body at the least away there shall no wish defoul, if that I may." Why should I more examples hereof sayn, since that so many have themselves slain well rather than that they defouled be? I will conclude that it is bet for me to slay myself than to be defouled thus. I will be true unto Arviragus, or else slay myself in some manner, as did Demotione's daughter dear, because she woulde not defouled be. O Sedasus, it is full great pity to read how thy daughters died, alas, that slew themselves for such a manner cas. As greater pity was it of well more, the Theban maiden that for Nicanor herself slew, right for such manner woe, another Theban maiden did right so. For one of Macedon had her oppressed, she with her death her maidenhead redressed. What shall I say of Niceratus' wife, that for such case bereft herself of life? How true was eke to Alcibiades his love, that for to dien rather cheese than for to suffer his body unburied be? Lo, what a wife was Alceste, quoth she. What saith Homer of good Penelope? All Greece knoweth of her chastity. Pardie, of Laedamia is written thus, that when at Troy was slain Protesilaus, no longer would she live after this day. The same of noble Portia tell I may. Without her Brutus coulde she not live, to whom she did all whole her hearte give. The perfect wifehood of Artemisy honoured is throughout all Barbary. O tutor queen, thy wifely chastity to alle wives may a mirror be. Thus plained Dorigen a day or tway, proposing never that she would a day. But natheless upon the thirde night home came Arviragus, the worthy knight, and asked her why that she wept so sore. And she gan weepen ever longer more. Alas, quoth she, that ever I was born, thus have I said, quoth she, thus have I sworn. And told him all, as ye have heard before, it needeth not rehearse it you no more. This husband with gladde cheer in friendly wise answered and said, as I shall you devise. Is there aught else, Dorigen, but this? Nay, nay, quoth she, God help me so as wis, this is too much, and it were Godde's will. Yea, wife, quoth he, let sleepe what is still. It may well parventure yet today ye shall your trothe holde by my fay. For God so wisly have mercy on me, I had well lever sticked for to be, for very love which I to ye have. But if ye should your troth keep and save, truth is the highest thing that man may keep. But with that word he burst anon to weep, and said, I you forbid, on pain of death, that never, while you lasteth life or breath, to no wight tell ye this misadventure. And die ye best, I will my woe endure, nor make no countenance of heaviness, that folk of you may deem harm or guess. And forth he called a squire and a maid. Go forth anon with Dorigen, he said, and bring her to such a place anon. They take their leave, and on their way they gone, but they not wiste why she thither went. He would no wish to tell her his intent. This squire, which that hight Aurelius, on Dorigen that was so amorous, of a venture happened her to meet amid the town, right in the quickest street, as she was bound to go the way forthright toward the garden, there as she had hight. And he was to the garden ward also, for well he spied when she would go out of her house to any manner place. But thus they met, of adventure or grace, and he saluted her with glad intent, and asked of her wherewithal she went. And she answered, half as were she mad, unto the garden as my husband bade, for troth for to hold, alas, alas. Aurelius gan to wonder on this case, and in his heart had great compassion of her, and of her lamentation, and of Arviragus the worthy knight, that bade her hold that she had had a height. So loath him was his wife should break her truth, and in his heart he caught of it great ruth, considering the best on every side, that from his lust yet were him liever abide, than do so high a churlish wretchedness against franchise and alla gentleness. For which in fewer words he said thus: Madam, say to your lord Arviragus, that since I see the greater gentleness of him, and eke I see well your distress, that him were lever have shame, and that were ruth, that ye to make me should break thus your truth. I had well lever I to suffer woe, than to depart the love betwixt you two. I you release, madam, into your hond, quit every surement and every bond that ye have made to me as here beforn, since thilke time that ye were born. Have here my truth, I shall you ne'er reprieve of no behest, and here I take my leave as of the truest and the beste life that ever yet I knew in all my life. But every wife beware of her bewest. On Dorigen remember at the least, thus can a squire do a gentle deed as well as can a knight without a dread. She thanked him upon her knees bare, and home unto her husband is she fare, and told him all as ye have heard said, and truste me, he was so well apaid that it were impossible me to write. Why should I longer of this case indite? Arviragus and Dorigen his wife in sovereign blisse leade forth their life, ne'er after was there anger them between. He cherished her as though she were a queen, and she was to him true for evermore. Of these two folk ye get of me no more. Aurelius, that as his cost had all forlorn, cursed the time that ever he was born. Alas, quoth he, alas that I be hight of pured gold 1,000 pound of white to this philosopher. How shall I do? I see no more, but I am fordue. Mine heritage must I needes sell, and be a beggar. Here I will not dwell, and shamen all my kindred in this place, but I of him may get a better grace. But natheless I will of him assay, and certain days year by year to pay, and thank him of his greater courtesy. My troth will I keep, I will not he. With hearte sore he went unto his coffer, and brought a gold unto this philosopher, the value of 500 pound, I guess, and him beseeched of his gentleness to grant him days of the remenant, and said, Master, I dare well make avaunt, I failed never of my truth as yet, for sickerly my debt shall be quit towards ye, howso that ere I fare, to go a begging in my kirtle bare. But would ye vouchsafe upon surety 2 year or 3 for to respite me, then were I well, for else I must sell mine heritage, there is no more to tell. This philosopher soberly answered, and said thus, when he these wordes heard: Have I not holden covenant to thee? Yes, certes, well and truly, quoth he. Hast thou not had thy lady as thee liked? No, no, quoth he, and sorrowfully siked. What was the cause? Tell me if you can. Aurelius his tale anon began, and told him all as ye have heard before. It needeth not to you rehearse it more. He said, Arviragus of gentleness had lever die in sorrow and distress, than that his wife were of her troth false. The sorrow of Dorigen he told him else, how loth her was to be a wicked wife, and that she had lever had lost that day her life, and that her troth she swore through innocence, she ne'er erst had speaks of apparence. That made her have of her so great pity, and write as freely as her sent her to me. And freely sent I her to him again. That is all sum and sum, there is no more to say. The philosopher answered, Lever, brother, ever each of you did gently to the other. Thou art a squire, and he is a knight, but God forbid, for all his blissful might. But if a clerk could do a gentle deed as well as any of you, it is no dread. Sir, I release thee thy £1,000, as thou right now were crept out of the ground, for never ere thou hadst known me. For, sir, I will not take a penny of thee, for all my craft, nor naught of my travail. Thou hast y paid well for my vitail. It is enough, and farewell, have good day. And took his horse, and forth he went his way. Lordings, this question would I ask enow, which has the most affree as thinketh you. Now tell me, ere that ye farther wend. I can no more. My tale is at an end. End of the Franklin's Tale. Read in Nottingham, England, on the 16th of July 2006. www.alexfoster.me.uk.
Okay. So do we want the other one? The next one is the Franklins. Oh, just a second. I've got everything. So I can't quite see it. The Franklin's Tale. It's about 32 minutes. Do we want to do that one too? Had a steak and salad. Ooh. Yummy. Steak. Salad's okay. Steak. Sure. We'll do the other one, Faye. Dave? We'll do the other one. Josiah says sure. Okay. Mwah. Mute me.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Joshua Young. homepages.nyu.edu/RJY201. The Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. Edited by D. Lang Purves. This reading is based on the book The Canterbury Tales and Other Poems. The original text contains poems by Chaucer and a lot of notes and explanations by the editor. To view these, please click on the Gutenberg eText link on the LibriVox catalog page of the Canterbury Tales. The Squire's Tale. Pars Prima. First part. At Sarra, in the land of Tartary, there dwelt a king that warred Russie, through which there died many a doughty man. This noble king was called Cambuscan, which in his time was of so great renown, that there was nowhere in no region so excellent a lord in all thing. Him lacked not that longeth to a king, as of the sect of which that he was born. He kept his law, to which he was sworn, and thereto he was hardy, wise, and rich, and piteous and just, always y like. True of his word, benign and honorable, of his courage as any sinner stable, young, fresh, and strong, in arms desirous as any bachelor of all his house. A fair person he was, and fortunate, and kept alway so well his royal estate, that there was nowhere such another man. This noble king, this Tartar Cambuscan, had 2 sons by Elfeta his wife, of which the eldest hight Algarsif, the other was he called Cambello. A daughter had this worthy king also, that youngest was, and hight Canas. But for to tell you all her beauty, it lies not in my tongue, nor my cunning. I dare not undertake so high a thing. Mine English eke is insufficient. It must be a rhetor excellent, that couth his colours longing for that art. If he should her describe in any part, I am none such, I must speak as I can. And so befell, that when this Cambuscan had 20 winters borne his diadem, as he was wont from year to year, I deem he let the feast of his nativity do cry throughout Sarah his city, the last Ides of March after the year. Phoebus the sun full jolly was and clear, for he was nigh his exaltation in Mart's face, and in his mansion in Aries the choleric hot sign full lusty was the weather and benign, for which the fowls against the sun sheen, what for the season and the young green. Full loud sang their affectations, them seemed to have got protections against the sword of winter keen and cold. This Cambuscan, of which I have you told, in royal vesture sat upon his dais, with diadem, full high in his palace, and held his feast so solemn and so rich, that in this world was there none it lich, of which if I should tell all the array, then would it occupy a summer's day, and eke it needeth not for to devise at every course the order of service. I will not tellen of their strange soes, nor of their swains, nor of their heronsoes. Eke in that land, as tell knights old, there is some meat that is full dainty hold, that in this land men reck of it full small. There is no man that may reporten all. I will not tarry you, for it is prime, and for it is no fruit, but loss of time. Unto my purpose I will have recourse. And so befell that, after the third course, while that this king sat thus in his nobley, hearing his minstrels their things play before him at his board deliciously, and at the hall door all suddenly there came a knight upon a steed of brass, and in his hand a broad mirror of glass. Upon his thumb he had of gold a ring, and by his side a naked sword hanging. And up he rode into the high board. In all the hall was there not spoke a word, for marvel of this knight, him to behold. Full busily they waited, young and old. This strange knight, that came thus suddenly, all armed, save his head, full richly, saluted king, and queen, and lords all, by order as they satten in the hall, with so high reverence and observance, as well in speech as in his countenance, that Gawain, with his old courtesy, though he were come again out of faery, him could not amend with a word. And after this, before the high board, he with a manly voice said his message, after the form used in his language, without vice, or syllable, or letter, and, for his tale should seem the better, accordant to his words was his cheer, as teacheth art of speech them that it lear. Albeit that I cannot sound his style, nor cannot climb over so high a stile, yet say I this, as to commune intent, thus much amounteth all that ever he meant, if it so be that I have it in mind. He said, "The king of Erbaineinde, my liege lord, on this solemn day, saluteth you as he best can and may, and sendeth you, in honor of your feast, by me, that am already at your hest, this steed of brass, that easily and well can in the space of one day natural, this is to say in 24 hours, whereso you list, in drought or else in showers, bear your body into every place to which your heart willeth for to pace, without whim of you, through foul or fair, or if you list to fly as high in the air as doth an eagle, when him list to soar, this same steed shall bear you evermore without harm, till ye be where you lest, though that ye sleepen on his back or rest." And turn again with writhing of pen, he that it wrought, he could many again, he waited in any a constellation, ere he had done this operation, and knew full many a seal and many a bond. This mirror eke that I have in mind hond hath such a might, that men may in it see, when there shall fall any adversity onto your realm, or to yourself also, and openly who is your friend or foe. And over all this, if any lady bright hath set her heart on any manner wight, if he be false, she shall see his treason, for his new love, and all his subtlety, so openly that there shall nothing hide. Wherefore against this lusty summertide, this mirror and this ring that ye may see, he hath sent to my lady Canace, your excellent daughter that is here. The virtue of this ring, if ye will hear, is this, that if her list it for to wear, upon her thumb or in her purse it bear, there is no fowl that flieth under heaven, that she shall not well understand his stiven, and know his meaning openly and plain, and answer him in language again. And every grass that groweth upon root, she shall eke know, to whom it will do boot. All be his wounds ne'er so deep and wide. This naked sword that hangeth by my side such virtue hath, that what man that it smite, throughout his armor it will carve and bite, were it as thick as is a branched oak. And what man is he wounded with a stroke shall ne'er be whole, till that you list of grace to stroke him with the flat in thilke place where he is hurt. This is as much to sayn, you must with the flat sword again stroke him upon the wound, and it will close. This is the very sooth without gloss, it faileth not, while it is in your hold. And when this knight had thus his tale told, he rode out of the hall, and down he light. His steed, which that shone as sun bright, stood in the court as still as any stone. The knight is to his chamber led anon, and is unarmed, and to meat y set. These presents be full richly y fet. This is to say, the sword and the mirror, and borne anon into the high tower, with certain officers ordained therefor. And unto Canace the ring is bore solemnly, where she sat at the table, but secretly without torn any fable. The horse of brass, that may not be remued, it stood as it were to the ground y glued. There may no man out of the place it drive, for no engine of windlass or polive, and cause why, for they can not the craft. And therefore in the place they have it laughed, till that the knight hath taught them the manner to void him, as ye shall after hear. Great was the press that swarmed to and fro, to garn on this horse that stood so. For it so high was, and so broad and long, so well proportioned for to be strong, right as it were a steed of Lombardy, therewith so horsely and so quick of eye, as it gentle play courser were. For certes, from his tail unto his ear, nature nor art ne could him not amend, in no degree, as all the people wend. But evermore their most wonder was, how that it could go, and was of brass. It was of fairy, as the people seemed, diverse folk diversely they deemed. As many heads, as many wits been. They murmured as doth a swarm of bin, and made skills after their fantasies, rehearsing of the old poetries, and said that it was like the Pegasee, the horse that had wings for it to flee, or else it was the Greek's horse Sinon that brought Troy to destruction, as men may in the old gestes read. Mine heart, quoth one, is evermore in dread. I trow some men of arms be therein, that shape them with this city for to win. It were right good that all such things were known. Another round to his fellow low, and said, He lies, for it is rather like an appearance made by some magic, as jugglers playen at these feasts great. Of sundry doubts they jangled thus and treat, as lewed people deem commonly of things that be made more subtly than they can in their lewdness comprehend. They deem gladly to the badder end. And some of them wonder on the mirror that borne was up into the master tower, how men might knit such things see. Another answered and said, it might well be naturally by compositions of angles and of sly reflections, and said that in Rome was such a one. They speak of Alhazen and Vitellon and Aristotle, that wrote in their lives of quaint mirrors and of perspectives, as know they that have their books heard. And other folk have wondered on the sword, that would pierce throughout anything, and fell in speech of Telephus the king, and of Achilles for his quaint spear, for he could with it both heal and dare. right in such wise men may with the sword, of which right now you have yourselves heard. They spake of sundry hardening of metal, and spake of medicines therewithal, and how, and when, it should be hardened be, which is unknown algate unto me. Then spake they of Canace's ring, and said in all, that such a wondrous thing of craft and rings heard they never none, save that he, Moses, and King Solomon hadden a name of conning in such art. Thus said the people, and drew them apart. Put nathless some say that it was wonder to maken of fern ashes glass, and yet is glass not like ashes of fern. But for they have known it is so fern, therefore ceases their jangling and their wonder, as sore wonder some on cause of thunder, and ebb and flood, on gossamer and mist, and on all things, till that the cause is wist. Thus jangle they, and demon and devise, till that the king gan from his board arise. Phoebus had left the angle meridional, and yet ascending was the beast royal, the gentle lion, with his aldrian, when that this Tartar king, this Cambuscan, rose from the board, there as he sat full high, before him went the loud minstrelsy, till he came to his chamber of parliaments, there as they sounded diverse instruments, that it was like a heaven for to hear. Now danced lusty Venus' children dear, for in the fish their lady sat full, and looked on them with a friendly eye. This noble king is set upon his throne, this strange knight is fetched to him full soon, and on the dance he goes with Canace. Here is the revel and the jollity, that is not able a dull man to devise. He must have knowen love and his service, and been a feastly man, as fresh as May, that should you devise such array. Who could tellen you the form of dances, so uncouth, and so fresh countenances, such subtle lookings and dissimulances, for dread of jealous men's appearancings? No man but Launcelot, and he is dead. Therefore I pass over all this lusty head. I say no more, but in this jolliness I leave them, till to supper men them dress. The steward bids the spices for to hie, and eke the wine, and all this melody. The ushers and the squires be gone. The spices and the wine is come anon. They eat and drink, and when this hath an end, unto the temple, as reason was, they wend. This service done, they suppen all by day. What needeth you rehearse their array? Each man wot well that at a king's feast is plenty to the most and to the least, and dauntless more be in my knowing. As after supper went this noble king to see the horse of brass, with all a rout of lords and of ladies him about. Such wondering was there on this horse of brass, that since the great siege of Troy was, there as men wondered on a horse also, ne'er was there such a wondering as was tho. But finally the king asked the knight the virtue of this courser, and the might, and prayed him to tell his governance. The horse anon began to trip and dance, when that the knight laid hand upon his rein, and said, "Sir, there is no more to sayn, but when you list to ride any way, you must trill a pin stands in his ear, which I shall tell you betwixt us two. You must name him to what place also, or to what country that you list to ride. And when ye come where ye list abide, bid him descend, and trill another pin, for therein lies the effect of all the gin. And he will down descend, and do your will, and in that place he will abide still. Though all the world had the contrary swore, he shall not thence be thrown nor be bore. Or if you list to bid him then gone, trill this pin, and he will vanish anon, out of the sight of every man or wit. And come again, be it by day or night, when that you list to clepe him again in such a guise, as I shall to you sayn betwixt you and me, and that full soon. Ride when you list, there is no more to don. Informed when the king was of the knight, and had him conceived in this wit aright, the manner and the form of all this thing, full glad and blithe, this nobly doughty king repaired to his revel as beforn. The bridle is into the tower borne, and kept among his jewels life and dear. The horse vanished, I not in what manner, out of their sight, yet get no more of me. And thus I leave in lust and jollity this Cambuscan his lords feasting, until well nigh the day began to spring. Pars Secunda, second part. The Norse of digestion, the sleep, gan on them wink, and bade them take keep, that much mirth and labour will have rest, and with a gaping mouth he all them kest, and said that it was time to lie down, for blood was in his domination. Cherish the blood, nature's friend, quoth he. They thanked him gaping by two and three, and every wit gan draw him to his rest. As sleep them bade, they took it for the best. Their dreams shall not now be told for me. Full are the heeds of fumosity, that cause dreams of which there is no charge. They slept, till that it was the prime large. The most part, but it was Canace. She was full measurable as woman be. For of her father had she taken after, to go to rest soon after it was eve, her lists not appalled for to be, nor on the morrow unfeastly for to see, and slept her first sleep, and then awoke. For such a joy she in her heart took, both of her quainte ring and her mirror, that 20 times she changed her colour, and in her sleep, right for the impression of her mirror, she had a vision. Wherefore ere that the sun gan beglide, she called upon her mistress her beside, and said that her lists for to rise. These old women, that be gladly wise, as are her mistresses, answered anon, and said, "Madam, whither will ye gon thus early? For the folk be all in rest." "I will," quoth she, "arise, for me lest no longer for to sleep, and walk about." Her mistresses called women a great rout, and up they rose, well at 10 or 12. Up rose fresh Canace herself, as ruddy and bright as is the young sun, that in the ram is 4 degrees y run. No higher was he, when she ready was, and forth she walked easily apace, arrayed after the lusty season's swoot, lightly for to play and walk on foot, naught but with 5 or 6 of her meaning. And in a trench forth in the park went she, the vapour, which up from the earth glod, made the sun to seem ruddy and broad. But natheless it was so fair a sight, that it made all their hearts for to light. What for the season, and the morning, and for the fowls that she heard sing. For right anon she wist what they meant, right by their song, and knew all their intent. The nought, why that every tale is told, if it be tarried, till the list be cold, of them that have it hearkened after yore, the savour passeth ever longer more, for fulsomeness of the prolixity. And by that same reason thinketh me, I should unto the nought condescend, and maken of her walking soon an end. Amid a tree for dry, as white as chalk, there sat a falcon o'er her head full high, that with a piteous voice so gan to cry, that all the wood resounded of her cry, and beat she had herself so piteously with both her wings, till the red blood ran in long the tree, there as she stood, and ever in one, always she cried and shright, and with her beak herself so pite, that there is no tiger nor cruel beast that dwelleth either in wood or in forest, but would have wept, if that he weep could, for sorrow of her. She shrieked always so loud, for there was never yet no man alive, if that he could a falcon well descrive, that heard of such another of fairness, as well as plumage, as of gentleness, of shape, of all that might reckon be a falcon peregrines seems she, of a fremd land. And ever as she stood, she swooned now, and now for lack of blood, till well nigh is she fallen from the tree. This fair king's daughter Canace, that on her finger bare the quaint ring, through which she understood well everything that any fowl may in her leaden sayn, and could him answer in his leaden again, hath understood what this falcon said, and well now for the ruth almost she died, and to the tree she went full hastily, and on this falcon looked piteously, and held her lap abroad, for well she wist the falcon must fall from the twist, when that she swooned next for lack of blood. A long while to wait her she stood, till at the last she spake in this manner unto the hawk, as ye shall after hear. "What is the cause? If it be for to tell, that ye be in this furial pain of hell," quoth Canace unto this hawk above, "is this for sorrow of death, or loss of love? For, as I trow, these be the causes two, that cause most a gentle heart woe. Of other harm it needeth not to speak, for ye yourself upon yourself awreak, which proveth well let either ire or dread must be occasion of your cruel deed. Since that I see none other wight you chase, for love of God, as do yourself grace. Or what may be your help? For west nor east I never saw ere now so bird nor beast that fared with himself so piteously. Ye slay me with your sorrow, verily. I have of you so great compassion, for God's love come from the tree adown, and, as I am a king's daughter true, if that I verily the causes knew of your disease, if it lay in my might, I would amend it, ere that it were night. So wisely help me the great God of kind, and herbies shall I right enough find, to heal with your hurts hastily. Then shrieked this falcon yet more piteously than ever she did, and fell to the ground anon, and lay a swoon as dead as lies a stone.
Till Canace had in her lap her take. Unto that time she gan of swoon awake. And after that she out of swoon abraid. Right in her hawk's leaden thus she said, That pity runneth soon in gentle heart, Feeling his similitude in pain smart, Is proved every day, as men may see, As well by work as by authority. For gentle heart kith gentleness. I see well that ye have on my distress Compassion, my fair Canace, of very womanly benignity, that nature in your principles has set. But for no hope for to fare the bet, but for to be unto your heart free, and for to make others aware by me, as by the whelp chastised is the lion. Right for that cause and that conclusion, while that I have a leisure and a space, mine harm I will confession ere apace. And ever while that one her sorrow told, the other wept, as she to water hold, till that the falcon bade her to be still, and with a sigh right thus she said her till, Where I was bred, alas, that like that day, and fostered in rock of marble gray, so tenderly, that nothing ailed me, I wist not what was her adversity, till I could flee full high under the sky. Then dwelled a tercelet me fast by, that seemed a well of all gentleness. All were he full of treason and falseness. It was so wrapped under humble cheer, and under hue of truth in such manner, under pleasance and under busy pain, that no wight weened that he could feign. So deep in grain he dyed his colours, right as a serpent hides him under flowers, till he may see his time for to bite. Right so this god of love's hypocrite did so his ceremonies and obeisances, and kept in semblance all his observances, that sudden unto gentleness of love. As on a tomb is all the fair above, and under is the corpse which that ye wet, such was this hypocrite, both cold and hot, and in this wise he served his intent, that save the fiend none wist what he meant, till he so long had weeped and complained, and many a year his service to me feigned, till that mine heart, too piteous and too nice, all innocent of his crowned malice, for feared of his death as thought me, upon his oaths and his surety, granted him love on this condition, that evermore mine honour and renown were saved, both privy and apert. This is to say, that after his descent I gave him all my heart and all my thought, God wot, and he that other waste not, and took his heart in change of mind for aye. But sooth is said, gone since many a day, a true wight and thief think not one. And when he saw the thing so far y gone, that I have granted him fully my love, in such a wise as I have said above, and given him my heart as free, true, as he swore that he gave his heart to me. Anon this tiger, full of doubleness, fell on his knees with so great humbleness, with so high reverence, and by his cheer, so like a gentle lover in manner, so ravished as it seemed for the joy, that never Jason, nor Paris of Troy, Jason, certes, nor ever other man, since Lamech was that alder first began to love two as right folk beforn, nor ever since the first man was born, could no one by 20,000 counterfeit the sophimes of his art, where doubleness of feigning should approach, nor worthy were t'unbuckle his galosh, nor could so thank a wight as he did me. His manner was a heaven for to see, to any woman, were she ne'er so wise, so painted he and kempt at point devise, as well his words as his countenance, and I so loved for his obedience, and for the truth I deemed in his heart, that if so were that anything him smart, all were it ne'er so light, and I it wist. Methought I felt death at my heart twist, and shortly so far forth this thing is went, that my will was his will instrument. That is to say, my wills obeyed his will in all thing, as far as reason fill, keeping the bounds of my worship ever, and never had I a thing so left or lever as him God wot nor ever shall no more. This lasted longer than a year or two, that I supposed of him naught but good. But finally, thus at the last it stood, that fortune would that he must win out of that place which that I was in, where me was woe. It is no question, I cannot make of it description. For one thing dare I tell boldly, I know what is the pain of death thereby. Such harm I felt, for he might not believe. So on a day of me he took his leave, so sorrowful eke, that I ween verily that he had felt as much harm as I, when that I heard him speak and saw his hue. But nathless I thought he was so true, and eke that he repair should again, within a little while, sooth to sayn, and reason would eke that he must go, for his honour, as often happeneth so, that I made virtue of necessity, and took it will, since that it must be. As I best might, I hid from him my sorrow, and took him by the hand, Saint John to borrow, and said him thus: "Lo, I am yours all. Be such as I have been to you, and shall." What he answered it needs not to rehearse. Who can say bet that he, who can do worse? When he had all well said, then had he done. Therefore
shall
behoveth
eat the
him
fiend,
thus
a
heard I
full
say.
long spoon.
So at the last he must forth his way, and forth he flew, till he came where him lest. When it came him to propose for to rest, I trow that he had thilke text in mind, that all thing repairing to his kind gladdeth himself. Thus say men, as I guess. Men love of, proper, kind, new thingless, as birds do, that men in cages feed. For though thou night and day take of them heed, and strew their cage fair and soft as silk, and give them sugar, honey, bread, and milk, yet right anon, as that his door is up, he with his feet will spurn down his cup, and to the wood he will, and worms eat. So Newfangle buy they of their meat, and love novelties of proper kind. No gentleness of blood may them bind. So far this tercelet, alas the day, though he were gentle born, and fresh, and gay, and goodly for to me, and humble, and free, he saw upon a time a kite flee. And suddenly he loved this kite so, that all his love is clean from me y-go, and hath his troth falsed in this wise, that hath the kite my love in her service, and I am lorn without remedy. And with that word this falcon gan to cry, and swooned eft in Canas's barn. Great was the sorrow for that hawke's harm. That Canas and all her women made, they wist not how they might the falcon glade, but Canas home bare her in her lap, and softly in plasters gan her wrap. There as she with her beak had hurt herself. Now cannot Canas but herbs delve out of the ground, and make salves new of herbs precious and fine of hue, to heal with this hawk from day to night. She did her business, and all her might, and by her bed's head she made a mew, and covered it with violets blue, in sign of truth that is in woman seen. And all without the mew was painted green, in which were painted all these false fowls, as by the tittifes, tercelets, and owls, and pies, on them for to cry and chide. Right, for despite were painted them beside. Thus leave I Canas her hawk keeping. I will no more as now speak of her ring, till it come eft to purpose for to sayn, how that this falcon got her love again, repentant, as the story telleth, by mediation of Cambalus, the king's son, of which that I told you. But henceforth I will my process hold, to speak of adventures, and of battles, that yet was never heard so great marvels. First I will tell you of Cambuscan, that in his time many a city wan, and after will I speak of Algarsife, how he won Theodora to his wife, for whom full oft in great peril he was, and he had been holden by the horse of brass. And after will I speak of Camballo, that fought in lists with the brethren two for Canas, ere that he might her win. And where I left I will again begin. End of Squire's tale.
So that's the end of Squire's tale. So, thanks for joining me while I fiddled around and got a little bit of drawing done. I'm making grass. Because you guys couldn't figure that one out, of course. You know, yeah. I'm sure you could. I'm sure you had no problem figuring out what I was drawing after a minute. So thanks for joining me, and next week, or Tuesday, we will be having, oops, let's see here, because apparently I closed the main window. Copy. Paste. Tuesday we will be having, what did we have today? We had 15 and 16. So we'll be having the Doctor's Tale and the Pardoner's Tale, probably, and maybe even the Shipment's Tale. We'll see how things go, because those are all shorter stories. Well, there's the 17 minutes, 40 minutes, and 27 minutes. This is much faster than any other ones. The other ones were like all an hour and a half. So we'll get either 2 or 3 of those done. It'll depend on how I feel. I'll say 2 for sure, and if not, 3. So yeah. I had an idea. Books. Oh, Josiah, you are so smart. The audio stream current bitrate is lower than the recommended bitrate. I highly doubt it's 0. Holy cow. Go away. Excellent connection, but my bitrate 0. Am I not moving enough? Probably. Thanks for joining me, guys. I really appreciate it. Have a sip. More coffee. Coffee. Yeah. Coffee. Love you guys, and I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day. Bye.